I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. You came along, put me back together. Every desire is now satisfied here in your love, love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. No, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Sing that again. Oh, there's nothing. Oh, there's nothing better
and welcome to our Anthem series. This is a one-week series where we are going to be talking about the topic of worship and why it matters. And I'm so excited because we're also reintroducing worship to Impact Online and Impact in person starting this week, and I could not be more excited about it. Guys, I love worship, but before we dive into that, I want to ask you, how good are you at remembering things? I know some people who say they have a photographic memory, and I like to believe them. I don't know if I believe my sister so much, but she says she remembers everything she reads and everything she sees, and I am not that gifted. I remember my freshman year of high school, I had my geography honors final. And I know some of you are heading into finals in a couple of weeks, and what you need to understand about this test is I was beyond nervous for it, because for this test, we were just going to be given a map and we had to identify all of the countries of the world, which is a lot. And then we had to identify 150 land features all over the world, mark where they were on the map, and write down their names correctly. And I was so nervous for this because I do not have photographic memory. I actually don't remember things super well all the time. And so what I did is my mom ordered me this large map, this large world map that I pinned up to corkboard, and I spent weeks, guys. Weeks where I would cut out a piece of paper of all the different landmarks of all the different countries, and I would pin them. I would sit there and I would pin where that country was, I would pin where that landmark was, and I would do it, and then I would take them all out and I would do it again. I did this over and over and over again because for some reason the rhythm, it made it easier for me to remember. For some reason the method of what I was doing, it kept it in my brain, and when the final came, I got an A, which was not what I expected, but it turned out the fact that I engaged in an activity that caused a method for me, that caused a rhythm for me to remember what I needed to remember, it helped. And I don't know about you guys if you struggle with memory as much as I do, but I think a lot of times our memory can fail us. Maybe not just in a test, but our memory can fail us when things get difficult. Our memory can fail us when things get confusing, when things get hard. Our memories can fail us. We can forget that we're loved. We can forget that we have support. We can forget that we have resources. We can forget that God is good. We can forget that God is there. We can forget that things can be okay, even when they're hard. And I think it's important for us to dive into the idea of this week of how do we help ourselves to remember, especially when things get stressful. Because I think it's in the stress of things that we revert back to what we know. We back ourselves against a wall and we can act irrationally, or we can think irrationally, or we can convince ourselves of things that aren't true. So what are we putting in our lives to help create rhythm, to help create practice and have a method of us remembering what is important even when things are difficult? And that's worship. I specifically want us to be talking about what helps us remember God and remember who God is when things get difficult. And you guys, I don't think we fully understand how much music can help us. How much music has actually influenced how we have learned as individuals. I mean, I learned the alphabet through song. I learned how to sing Happy Birthday. I learned about all the animals at Old MacDonald's farm. I learned about Twinkle Little Star. There are so many different songs that I grew up learning that helped me understand things a little bit better. I even remember watching Hannah Montana sing a song about all the bones in a human's body and how she created this song to pass this test. And actually that song helped me pass an anatomy test when I was later in college. For some reason, music and rhythm helps us remember. There's something in our brain that just connects. And that's how we are also called to worship. You see, the Israelites went through a lot in their history, and what you need to understand is they had hundreds and hundreds of years of God showing up, God doing incredible things, God being amazing and wonderful, but they didn't have ways to write it down. They didn't have ways to document it. All they could do to share this information, all they could do to make sure that they did not forget who God was, they did not forget how he showed up or what he did for them or how he was faithful, is they would share. They would tell the stories of God, but they took it even further. They would write songs. so people wouldn't forget. And this week, today, we are going to dive into Psalms. We talked about Psalms recently, and what that is a book of songs in the Bible. And what you need to understand is these songs were written for Israel's struggle, by Israel, by David, so many people, to remember who God is. To remember who God is, to remember how he's shown up, to remember how he cares, to remember the struggle, but not forget God in it. And what you need to know is the Israelites didn't just worship God with their songs. They worshiped God in so many different ways. They worshiped him by stacking huge rocks in places where incredible things happened, things they didn't want to forget. They renamed locations and even people after God did something miraculous. They established new traditions, holidays, feasts, practices where they would engage in the remembrance of God. Engage in remembering how he had shown up for them. And you would see in some of the Psalms where they talk about this. In Psalms 120 through 134, and guys, we do not have time today to read through all these Psalms, even though they're short. I think it's important to look at the theme that we see. You can see a consistent theme as you go through these Psalms, and the first is trusting God. The second, things get difficult. The third is they cry out for help. The fourth is that God sees their prayers. And the fifth is that God does something amazing. God shows up. And they use these psalms and they sing them during a lot of their holidays to remember him, to understand the practice, to appreciate God. And I want to look at one specific thing. You see, when they entered into their festivals, they didn't just celebrate, they sang. Much like how we sing Christmas carols, they would sing psalms. And one of these holidays was the Passover. And I want us to look at how Jesus engaged in the Passover, because what you need to understand is Jesus would surround himself with his disciples. They would engage in the Passover, which was a feast, but they would also sing. And the psalms normally sung are Psalms 113 through 117. But before we get into that, I want to dive into Matthew 26, verses 26 through 30, and see how Jesus engages in the Passover. And here's what it says. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat, this is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. You see, Jesus understood the practice of singing in remembrance of God. The Jews remembered the practice of singing in the remembrance of God, in worshiping who God was. And I want us to look at one of the Psalms, and it's in Psalms either 113 through 117, that they might have sang. I want us to look at a section of 116, verses 1 through 7. Here's what it says. "I love the Lord, for he heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy because he turned his ear to me. I will call on him as long as I live. The cords of death entangle me. The anguish of the grave came over me. I was overcome by distress and sorrow. Then I called on the name of the Lord. Lord, save me. The Lord is gracious and righteous. Our God is full of compassion. The Lord protects the unwary. When I was brought low, he saved me. Return to your rest, my soul, for the Lord has been good to you." Just as Jesus was about to fulfill what he had been called to do, just as Jesus was about to complete his covenant, just as Jesus was about to lay down and die for us, he sang. He sang remembering God. He sang remembering who God was, why God was good, why he served him. And I think we need to follow that example. You see, Jesus was heading into one of the most dangerous times of his life, something that led to his death, and yet he still remembered to worship God, worship God's goodness, worship that God would show up because he knew and he trusted that he would. And the thing that we need to understand in all the history of this is that the reason these psalms were so important is because they not only helped Jesus remember God, but they helped the Israelites remember God when things were difficult, when they were in famine, when they were against the wall and they were worried that they would die. They would sing to God. They would remember his goodness. They would remember how he had shown up. They would remember what he had done. And they did this through worship. And the main way was singing. And you guys, the reason this happens is because for some reason, singing and the rhythm of music helps us remember things much more easily. There's studies done that when you sing about something, that when you engage in singing or you engage in some kind of practice, something that helps you maybe get out of your stress, get out of your mind, and it might be painting, it could be writing, it could be singing, it could be anything you consider worship, something that allows you to get into a rhythm that remembers something, then you're more likely to remember it. It's more likely to stick with you. I don't know about you guys, but when I first got my first credit card, how I remembered the numbers was creating a song about it. And it's because for some reason, I'll forget the numbers, but I remember the rhythm. And when the rhythm comes to me, especially when I'm stressed out and I need to remember this card's number, the numbers come with the rhythm. And I think it's the same way in how we worship God. We need to actively engage in worship. We need to actively engage some kind of practice that gets into our creative mind, helps create some kind of rhythm so that we can remember God when things get difficult. So that we can remember God and how good he is when it's hard. And so here's what I want to ask you guys today. Do you have a good rhythm in your life of worshiping God? And what is that? You see, you could be worshiping God through prayer. You can be worshiping God through singing. You can be worshiping God through journaling. You can be worshiping God through serving. You can be worshiping God through art. There are so many different ways you can worship God. And you don't have to just choose one. But I want you to be asking yourself, are you engaging in worship in your everyday life so that you can better remember God, remember his goodness when things get a little bit difficult, when things get stressful, when things get hard, that you don't completely forget who God is, think he's forgotten you, say that he's left you, but for some reason the rhythm stays within you and you can remember his goodness, his faithfulness, his love. So guys, where is your rhythm of worship in your life? And if you don't have it, how can you start trying to develop that for yourself? How can you be better at praising and remembering God in your day-to-day life? All right, guys, stick around for announcements and then enjoy small groups. Hey guys, welcome to Impact News. Woo, 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 woo. We're going to give you a scoop on what we have going down this week. So we have quite a few things. The first is we are starting our brand new Bible study through the book of John this Wednesday at Willow South Lake at 7 p.m. Make sure to be there, bring your Bible, bring a mask, and we will get right into it. What do we have next, Chip?
Well, we have Impact Lunch on the 16th. So bring your lunch or be prepared to run out and get it, bring it back and come back. You're going to eat your lunch. You're going to play games. You're going to have a lot of fun. It's on the 16th, so be there.
Woo-woo. And then, guys, on May 23rd, we have our second rally night. And what that means is you can show up at 7 p.m. at Willow South Barrington in the main auditorium. We're going to have worship. We're going to have teach. It's going to be incredible. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a treat there as well for everyone. I'm not 100%.
Wow.
But I've heard maybe Dippin' Dots. I don't know though. Don't. But yes, guys, be prepared to come to that, have some fun, learn some more about God, engage in incredible worship. It's going to be fantastic. But guys, we do have one more announcement. It's kind of a sad announcement. Chip, do you want to let them know?
Well, the 16th will be my last day as part of the leader group. So I'll be leaving. That's why I'm wearing shades. It's not because I'm cool. I just don't want you to see the tears welling up. That's all.
Yeah, guys, Dad over here has officially moved to Tennessee, and it's time for him to start church hunting down there.
And working on my short game, as you can see. So
we were sad to see him go, and so I just want to let you guys know that next week will be his last week. If he's been your small group leader or somebody that's influenced you, I just want to encourage you to show up next week to send him off well and tell him goodbye. Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it should be fun and sad. But yeah, guys, that's all of the stuff that we have for you this week. This has been Ronnie.
And Chip, signing off.
Woo! All right, guys, head to small group.